Nana sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the dim light filtering through the dusty curtains of her aunt's house. The small room, once a place of refuge, had turned into a cage. She could hear Mame Serwa's voice in the next room, speaking in hushed but urgent tones. "Yes, sister, I am telling you, this girl will bring disgrace to us." Nana knew exactly who her aunt was talking to. Her mother. It had become routine. Every few days, Mayame Serwa would pick up the phone and spin new tales about Nana's supposed misdeeds. She was flirting with men, walking seductively, bringing shame upon their family. And every time her mother would call, her voice filled with disappointment. "Nana, why can't you behave yourself?" It didn't matter how much Nana protested. Her mother never believed her. At 19, Nana was in her prime, intelligent, curvy, and undeniably beautiful. Men noticed her, admired her, and sometimes tried to talk to her. But instead of feeling flattered, she lived in fear. Her aunt, Mayame Serwa, was a bitter woman, deeply religious but filled with resentment. She had never married, and in her eyes, all young women were temptresses, sent to lead men astray. "You think I don't see what you're doing?" Mame Serwa would hiss whenever a man so much as greeted Nana. "You, with your sinful beauty, luring men to destruction." At first, Nana thought it was a misunderstanding. She tried to explain that she wasn't doing anything wrong, but Mame Serwa would only get angrier. The accusations grew worse. If a market seller smiled at Nana while handing her change, she was seducing him with her eyes. If a neighbor's son asked her for directions, she was planning secret meetings with men. The punishments were swift. Some days, Mame Serwa would refuse to give her food. Other days, she would send her out to fetch heavy loads, knowing the midday sun would scorch her back. The worst days were when Mame Serwa used her words as weapons. To Mame Serwa, a man's glance was evidence of Nana's sins. "You think I don't see how you sway your hips? Cover yourself properly. Stop looking at men." Nana grew up believing that something about her was inherently wrong. That no matter how she dressed, how she moved, or what she said, she was always at fault. She tried everything to escape her aunt's accusations. She wore loose clothing, avoided eye contact with men, and even changed the way she walked. But none of it mattered. Mame Serwa's voice echoed in her mind. "If men look at you, it's because you invited them." Even at her jam lesson center, the weight of these words followed her. She sat in the corner, away from the boys, answering questions in class only when necessary. She avoided forming friendships, afraid that any association with the opposite sex would bring her aunt's wrath upon her. And still, men looked, because no matter what she did, she was beautiful. One evening, as Nana was fetching water from the communal well, she heard footsteps behind her. It was Kwame, a kind young man from the next compound. "Nana, let me help you with that," he offered, reaching for the heavy pot on her head. She panicked and shook her head. "No, please, if my aunt sees—" But it was too late. Mame Serwa had been watching from the shadows. That night, Nana didn't sleep. Her aunt locked her in the small storage room and left her in the darkness. "You will not bring shame to my house." Mame Serwa shouted through the door. "Tomorrow, you will confess your sins before the church." Her aunt's words didn't just poison her mother's mind. They spread to the women in their neighborhood, to the girls in her lesson center. "She thinks she's better than us. No wonder men follow her around." Maybe what Mame Serwa says is true. The whispers followed Nana wherever she went. It didn't matter that she never entertained the men who approached her. The damage was already done. Her aunt had painted a picture of her as a loose girl, and people believed it. Nana learned to walk with her head down, but as the days passed, something inside her started to change. One afternoon, as she walked home from lessons, a group of boys on the roadside whistled at her. She immediately looked down, adjusting her loose-fitting blouse. But then a thought struck her. She hadn't done anything wrong. She was just walking. Men would look. Some out of admiration. Some out of lust. Some out of simple curiosity. It had nothing to do with her. For the first time, she questioned the belief that had been drilled into her for years. She was in her prime. She was beautiful. And that was not a sin. But Mame Serwa was not ready to let go of her control. It happened on a Sunday. Nana had just returned from a special Jambi revision class when she saw a small crowd gathered outside their house. She hesitated. She knew better than to walk into a gathering like that, but curiosity pulled her forward. Then she saw him, a man, middle-aged, respected in the community, stood in the center of the crowd, his face red with shame. And beside him, Mame Serwa, her voice raised in accusation. "This man has been following my niece. He has been tempting her, disturbing her, harassing her." Gasps spread through the crowd. Nana's heart pounded. "Me?" The man's voice was weak with disbelief. "It is not me following her. It is your niece who has been sending me signals." A heavy silence fell. Nana stepped forward, her mind spinning. She had never spoken to this man before, but it was clear what was happening. Mame Serwa, desperate to control her, had made a grave mistake. She had accused the wrong person, and this man was not willing to take the blame. "She has been parading herself around the neighborhood," Mame Serwa insisted, "dressing in tight clothes, enticing men." "That is a lie," someone interrupted. "A woman," one of the lesson instructors who had been passing by. "I see Nana every day. She is one of the most reserved girls in my class." More voices joined in. "I have never seen her misbehave. This is unfair. Why do you always accuse the girl?" For the first time, the people who had judged Nana began to question Mame Serwa's words. And just like that, the years of manipulation unraveled in front of everyone. Mame Serwa was humiliated, but she would never admit her lies. That night, she was silent. But she didn't need to speak. Her power over Nana was gone. Nana's mother, even after hearing everything, remained distant. "Just be careful," she warned. But Nana didn't need her mother's validation anymore. She had been freed. But freedom came with a price. She had no one to lean on. The girls who had whispered about her did not suddenly become her friends. She still had to fight for her place in the world, and she did. She focused on her studies, refusing to be defined by the rumors. Slowly, she built a new life, one where she walked without fear, where she decided who she wanted to be. Months later, after gaining admission, she met Kofi. Unlike the others, he hadn't heard the rumors. He didn't care about the past. He saw Nana for who she was, brilliant, strong, and determined. They became friends. A friendship built on mutual respect, on conversations about books and dreams, not on fear or judgment. For the first time in years, Nana laughed freely. For the first time, she realized, she was more than the shadows cast over her name. She was Nana. And she was finally free.